Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's nice to see you all. This coming Monday, members of the Hindu faith, including several of our own Roxbury Latin community, will celebrate Diwali. It is one of the most popular festivals of Hinduism, which, as you likely know, is a faith tradition dating back more than 4,000 years with over 1.2 billion followers in the world today. The festival of Diwali symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance, virtues to which we all should aspire. This morning, we at Roxbury Latin will continue our tradition of recognizing and celebrating the particular faith lives of members of our community. In doing so, we recognize, as always, that we are a school that gathers all kinds of boys, and that we are a school committed to understanding and celebrating our individual paths, including paths of faith that contribute to our whole. Knowing about various religions and affirming the faith lives of one another are both worthy pursuits. And it is also in hearing about and from the witnesses to these different faiths that we can most hopefully develop our own journeys towards meaning and fulfillment. This morning, our own Nayan Patel of Class 3 will share with us the origin, symbolism, and tradition of the Diwali holiday. Please help me welcome Nayan to the lectern.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Before I start, I would like to thank and express my gratitude towards Ms. Berg, Mrs. Carroll, Ms. Salas, Dr. Schaefer, my parents, and my grandma for their continued support to make this all happen. Today, I hope to enlighten you all on the most important holiday in India, Diwali. I will begin with a quote from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the oldest and most revered Hindu scriptures. Quote, Tamaso ma jyotir gamaya, meaning, lead me from darkness to light. This ancient prayer captures something essential about Diwali, the journey from darkness to light, or from exile to homecoming, from ignorance to understanding, and from myth to meaning. Diwali, the Festival of Lights, is a celebration inspired by the Ramayana, one of the great epics of world civilization, similar to Homer's Odyssey or the Iliad. It is not merely a story, but also a vast tapestry of history, myth, poetry, and philosophy. The central figure in the tale is Prince Ram, and his growth from a noble boy into a powerful and revered ruler. His trials and tribulations include his exile from his birth kingdom of Ayodhya, his battles against injustice, his devotion to character, and his eventual return. Diwali celebrates the climactic moment of that epic, Ram's triumphant homecoming after 14 years away, greeted by a city lit with thousands of oil lamps. The heart of the festival is a scene of thousands of points of light illuminating the darkness. When people speak of Diwali, they typically talk either of Ram's glorious story or the diyas, the light candles, on the symbolic day. But the holiday rests on three pillars: mythology, ritual, and philosophy. Each plays a distinct role, and together they reveal the deeper meaning of the festival. The first pillar is mythology, the story of Ram. That is to say, the stories that are passed down from generation to generation, that people love and remember. I wanted to note that these are illustrated manuscripts held at the British Museum, but stolen from India during the time of colonial occupation. The story begins in the kingdom of Ayodhya, where King Dashrath had no children and was deeply troubled about who would take over his throne. He then performed a sacred ritual to seek divine blessing for his children, and Ram was born shortly after. Even as a child, Ram displayed extraordinary calm, wisdom, and virtue, while he excelled in every art of war and learning. he also remained humble and devoted to truth and duty. Therefore, Ram is rightfully set up to inherit the throne of his father and rule over all of Ayodhya. This painting portrays Ram's youth, from his birth in the upper half to his princely life below. In the bottom right, a group of young women admire and discuss his handsome appearance. His jealous stepmother, however, has other plans. She wants her son to inherit the throne instead, and brings it about that Ram is exiled for 14 years into the forest, where his wife Sita and his brother Lakshman offer to accompany him. This painting shows, on the left, Ram, Sita, and Lakshman leaving Ayodhya in a chariot. The townspeople mourn their exile on the right side, especially King Dasharath. In the forest, there are demons. One tries to seduce Ram, but Ram rejects her. Furious, she attacks Sita, Ram's wife, and in response, Lakshman cuts off the demon's ears and nose. The female demon complains to her brother king, Ravan, who avenges his sister by capturing Sita after luring Ram and Lakshman away from her. On the left, a group of demons eagerly await capturing Sita. The right side of the painting depicts Ravan, the demon with multiple heads, capturing Sita and bringing her to the skies while a vulture dies trying to stop him. Ram, heartbroken that his wife was abducted, vows to rescue her. He calls upon Hanuman, a mighty general, who leaps across the ocean to find Sita. Ram then assembles an army and marches south to confront the demons. You can see in this illustrated manuscript, Hanuman leaping across the ocean from island to island in a desperate attempt to find Sita. A great battle ensues, a struggle not merely of armies, but of values. Humility versus arrogance, self-control versus desire, and most importantly, good versus evil. In the end, Ravan is defeated and Sita is free. This painting depicts a battle scene between Ram and Lakshman in the top left and Ravan in the top right, whose numerous heads are shot off. The monkeys in the bottom left are observing, while the other demons in the bottom right are retreating. Finally, Ram, Sita, and Lakshman return to Ayodhya. The people, overjoyed, light rows of oil lamps to guide them home and celebrate the restoration of order. That night, where light triumphs darkness, is what we now call Diwali. The rows of oil lamps depicted here aim to resemble the scene Ram returned to in Ayodhya. The story of exile and return, loss and redemption, and darkness and light is why Diwali is not just a holiday, but a mirror of the human journey. The myth I narrated is the first pillar. The second pillar is ritual, which takes these grand stories and brings them into our daily lives. There are a multitude of rituals Hindus practice on Diwali. The most famous, however, is a simple act of lighting a candle that we call a diya. By lighting a diya, we reenact the welcome given to Ram. The flame becomes a reminder that light overcomes darkness, that wisdom defeats ignorance, and that even in humility, goodness has power. The numerous oil lamps in this picture are diyas. Another notable ritual is the act of making rangoli, which are colored powder patterns. In conjunction with making a rangoli, homes are thoroughly cleaned and decorated with flowers and mango leaves. Cleaning and decorating homes reflects Ayodhya's purification before Ram's homecoming, the city made new for the return of righteousness. Here's a classic example of a rangoli pattern made up of circles, petal-like arcs, in interlocking triangles, forming a bright star shape. Small diyas and flowers are placed evenly around the rangoli as well. Lastly, my favorite ritual is the exchange of gifts and sweets. This represents the reunion of Ram with his people and the renewal of social harmony. Some of the more notable sweets include Kaju Katli, Jalebi, and Mysore Pak. On the right are Jalebi, left of that are the Mysore Pak, and then the Kaju Katli. Ritual focuses the mind. It draws our attention, not to the clash of armies or the slaying of demons, but to the deeper lessons in the story. Lighting diyas allows us to participate in the myth at a philosophical level. The third pillar is philosophy. Philosophy is often the most overlooked, but significant nonetheless. Swami Vivekananda, one of India's greatest philosopher priests, had his own interpretation of the symbol of lighting diyas. He considered the lighting of lamps to be a way of, quote, bringing clarity with light and dispelling ignorance, darkness. Not only does this apply to the world around us, but also within ourselves. He reminded us that real darkness is not on the outside, it is the blindness within us. Here's an illustration of what Swami Vivekananda would have looked like when he was younger. At the heart of Diwali's philosophy is the idea of the light within. The small flame we light to honor Ram's return is also a reflection of the divine spark that exists inside every one of us. That spark encompasses goodness, truth, and can dispel our deepest darkness. Diwali calls us to nurture that inner light and let it guide our actions, our choices, and our lives. For example, many Hindus, Jains, and Buddhists express their inner light through a concept known as ahimsa, meaning non-violence toward all living beings, which is why many, like myself, have chosen to live a vegetarian life. The light within is not just an abstract spiritual idea. It is a foundation of character, the very quality that Roxbury Latin seeks to cultivate above all else. Character means acting with integrity when no one is watching. It means choosing what is right over what is easy. It means remaining steady in adversity, using one's talents in the service of others, and elevating our brothers in this room. Ram is revered, not because he is powerful, but because he is principled and he serves others above himself. Diwali bears some profound lessons. First, character, as I previously mentioned. Second, resilience. Ram endured 14 years of unjust exile in the wilderness and confronted an army of demons to rescue his wife. Ram showcased his resilience, however, throughout this hardship. Diwali teaches us that adversity is not the end. It is a crucible through which virtue is proven. Third, interconnectedness and selfless giving. When Ram returns to Ayodhya, the people light lamps in every home. Each flame is small on its own, but together they fill the entire city with light. Diwali reminds us that goodness grows when it is shared, when each of us contributes our light to others. It is also important to understand that Hindus embrace how other religions celebrate Diwali. Hinduism is an expansive tent. It does not insist that the divine can be known in only one way. It sees all sincere seekers as fellow travelers toward the same ultimate reality. For instance, Jainism, a religion in India, celebrates Diwali as the day Mahavir Swami, their greatest spiritual leader, attained liberation. Depicted here in the middle is a representation of Mahavir Swami. Sikhism, another Indian religion, celebrates Diwali as the day where Guru Hargobind, the sixth Sikh Guru, was released from imprisonment. This painting shows Guru Hargobind with a bird on his shoulder, which represents the eye of truth. Buddhists too, in some traditions, honor Diwali as a festival of light and awakening. Here is the Buddha with flowers around him. The values Diwali embodies, truth, justice, and inner light, are universal and reach beyond any one faith. In this sense, the tale of the Ramayana is more than just an Indian legend. It's part of a larger human story about the search for truth and the triumph of light over darkness. Stories like Moses receiving the law on Mount Sinai, the resurrection of Jesus, or the Prophet Muhammad's night journey, each express humanity's longing for truth and a deeper connection with the divine, a journey that Diwali too celebrates. Though these stories come from different traditions, they share similar themes: loss and return, doubt and fate, and darkness and light. Each reminds us that through struggle, people can discover meaning and renewal. This pattern extends even into the secular realm. The Odyssey has many parallels to the Ramayana. Both epics tell the story of a hero who endures hardships and fights off enemies before finally returning home. They teach us the value of perseverance. The Iliad too has striking comparisons. The two epics both center on warriors tested not only by battle, but more by the challenge of mastering themselves. Achilles must learn to control his pride and fury, as his real test is not fighting Hector, but confronting the limits of his own anger. Ram's test is similar: to rule his emotions and to act justly, even when wrongfully exiled. They teach us that self-mastery is the highest form of heroism. These stories endure because they are not only about myths, they are about us. Not only do they teach us lessons, but they reflect our struggles and our hopes. They remind us that we too are on a journey, and that within us burns a light capable of guiding us forward. So as you see these images of diyas glowing in the dark, remember that Diwali is not just a mythological story to be told, or a ritual to be performed. It is an invitation to look inward and nurture the light that lives inside of you, and to carry that light outward into a world that may feel consumed with darkness. May this Diwali inspire you, as Vivekananda urged, to quote, "Bring all light into the world, to live with character, with resilience, with compassion, and with light." Thank you. Sure. Any questions?
I was just wondering, I know it starts Monday, right? Well,
Yep.
could you talk a little bit about how that day will look for you? Like how will you start it off, and then do you do anything when the day ends?
Sure, good question. The question was, how does a day of Diwali look like for you? What do I do, and how does the day progress? So in the morning, I'll wake up, I'll probably do a prayer in the morning, and then I'll eat my breakfast, I'll eat my lunch. Diwali is mainly like a evening ritual, so I'll probably hang out with my grandparents, my grandpa right there. I will light a diya, make rangoli during the day, and at night do another ritual, eat a special dinner with some of the sweets I mentioned, like kaju katli especially. Any more?
Thank you very much, Maya. Those are good words and thoughts for us to begin the day with, to hear about powerful and universal values and virtues about character and resilience and interconnectedness and the victory of lightness over dark and wisdom over ignorance, which is something we all aspire to. In the spirit of tonight's message and in honor of Diwali, I'd like to close with a Hindu meditation. So please join me in pausing for a moment of reflection. Goddess, born from the struggle between good and evil, guide us toward the light. In a world where plenty is possible, let us end hunger, thirst, and homelessness. In your nurturing hands, let us seek refuge from want, fear, and violence. With your grace, let our world be reborn, where all needs are met, where morality and love are abundant, and whereby we are free. Om Jai Lakshmi. Thank you. Class 1.